Hello, Martin. Welcome to episode 84 of Illuminated Rounds again. So, for those that obviously won't know what happened, here's last week's attempt of our opening. Hello, Martin. Welcome to episode 84, birthday special. How we doing? So yeah, my apologies, Martin. We did the entire recording with only me talking, which
it probably would have improved it. To be fair,
I don't think so.
I'm definitely getting a sense of deja vu all over again.
Exactly that. And you know what? It was my birthday. It was your birthday coming up. So that's what we did spending on our birthdays was just wasted our time talking to each other. It was the equivalent of shouting in a forest and no one listening. But anyway, we're back again, and we'll go through this episode again. How have you been?
Yeah, no, fine. So my son came back from university. Really came back for a dental appointment, but pretended he came back for my birthday, and had a couple of friends over and things like that. So it's been nice. Yeah,
Great.
You had a lovely time in London.
I did. Yeah, we went to London. We had a lovely meal out, and then we had the tube strikes, the train strikes, just caused chaos. So it ended up me having to drive in the morning 2.5 hours. One of my daughters back to her university in Southampton. And literally turn back round and come back round again for a 5-hour drive that she slept half the way or the entire way for her. But it's things we do, eh? Things we do.
It's a popular time of the year for ASLers because Ian Willie has a birthday that at the same time as us, doesn't he?
It does indeed, yeah. So
might even be the day after mine or something like that.
Well, happy birthday to Ian too, and hope he's doing well. We played. Well, I played in the Blackpool tournament. So I came second in there. There's my trophy here that we can celebrate. You can't really see that, but anyway,
it's not bad for second place, is it?
It's very good, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's
it's very good.
Better than all my first place trophies.
Would you swap it?
I haven't got any first place trophies.
You've got a double one. I know you've got a double one because it's.
I've got a double one, but that's just it's just a group, isn't it? It's you just win. I won the group of 4. Yeah, it's a win. Win's a win. But...
I noticed that was on your I don't know if it's still there on your mantelpiece during our fireside chat.
I've actually won 4 times the group in double one, and but that's the only time I got a trophy. All the other times I got like I don't know, some dice or a little pack or something like that. So it's my only trophy.
Well, hey, listen, there's no shame in that. I had a great time in Blackpool. Blackpool was really well run by Pete Phillips. We had a really good time. The standout scenario, I won't go through all the games that I played, but the standout scenario I thought was grab and go from the Journal 12. Really, really good scenario. I would encourage anybody that hasn't played it to give it a go. It's primarily an infantry-only scenario, medium size, but it's got a nice little twist on it with the half tracks and the mortars having to be recrewed. Really, really good scenario. So thumbs up to that one in particular.
Do you know that Pete Phillips has never missed a UK tournament in the history of UK tournaments?
It's incredible. It's incredible. He does deserve a lifetime award of.
I think so. I think we should also arrange a tournament and not tell him it's on, just to break his run. He does deserve some sort of recognition for that. I think that's
he does.
I mean, to be fair, he's run half of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we know, tournament organising is a difficult subject. Simon Staniforth was brilliant. He was asking for feedback. He had 2 pages of feedback that he was looking for about his tournament that he's going to run because Martin Mayers isn't going to do it anymore with him, which is completely understandable. And so there's going to be a whole load of feedback and whether or not he is able to incorporate what people give him. It's always dangerous, I think, asking for feedback because you then solidify people's opinions and then suddenly maybe they don't.
You can't do everything everybody wants, can you? Or suggest for that matter, yeah.
That's right, exactly. And the hot topic at the moment on the forums is really the use of chess clocks, which is ironic because I was given one as a birthday present from one of my daughters. So that's kind of interesting. Your views on chess clocks? We've talked about this before, but your views on chess clocks for tournaments?
Yeah, no, I don't like the idea. I think, to be honest, I find the game difficult enough as it is without someone putting time pressure on me. See the argument in favour of speeding people up a little bit, but I think the best strategy is not to play people who are too slow.
Right. It's difficult, isn't it? Because there are some slower players, not necessarily only on the tournament scene, but if I don't know if, like, for example, if you and I, if one of us was a really really slow player, whether or not, or the other way around, if other of us was too fast, whether I think we're very very similar speed players, but whether or not you have a compatible friendship, in ASL, if one of you is a much different speed player.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I mean, if you're sitting there, literally, your weekend time ticking away while you're waiting for somebody to take a move, and they're much slower than you, that does take a lot of the fun out of it. There's no question about that. I think if you're happy to sit there and perhaps read a book or something, that's different. Yeah. But it does bring us on to another topic we're going to talk about. Actually, you wanted to talk about Hill 621, didn't you?
That's
you
right.
An interesting idea for a challenge.
That's right. So community challenge about how fast can a pair of players, or maybe a group, I don't know if you want to do it as a group, play Hill 621. So I think Hill 621 is probably at least if you and I were just sitting down to play it normally, it's a 12-hour scenario. I think at least. I think it's a day of playing, and you've got to be fairly focused. But I also think that we play ASL in general too slowly. I think that is I don't mind the speed you and I play out. I think that's great. But I think we could play twice as many scenarios if we played twice as fast. And I think given that we are not running out of scenarios anytime soon.
But we are running out of time.
We are. Definitely, 10:50, you suddenly realise, oh wow, there's not a lot of time left for that kind of stuff. So my challenge is, and I'd like to do this with you, is at some point, how fast can we play Hill 621? And I'd like your input on whether you think it's fast to play on Vassal or in real life, and whether or not, obviously we'll take breaks and we won't count those breaks, but how fast do you think we can do it as well? Vassal or face-to-face?
I don't know which is quicker. I genuinely don't.
Yeah.
Probably Vassal's quicker. But I'm not sure. I'm not convinced. Yeah. Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. It'll be intriguing. I don't think we can play it twice and compare the times. That feels like
we have played it before.
We have played it before, haven't we?
Long time ago.
Yeah, we have, and that seems to remember that was because we played it in face to face, didn't we? And it was a big. And that was one of the first scenarios I think you and I played. I think
it was very early on, and definitely.
Yeah. It was good. And the other thing I'm going to ask you about, so that's one challenge, and we'd love people to take on this challenge, Hill 621, how fast can you play it? I think
we can record it and actually have a sort of a record, a world record.
That's right, exactly. And I think
which this sort of is for 621.
That's right. So we think we've got an unofficial world record of about 6 hours or so. I think Benzioid or something, I think said about 6 hours, 6.5 hours, something like that. That's the time to beat. It will, but we can do it. We can have a go.
We can do it. And we can get the Guinness Book of Records in to kind of time us officially, perhaps, and get into the book.
Do you know what? You see, this is the thing. There must be. The thing is about it is you've got to figure out a way of stopping someone resigning early, and that's the challenge.
Yeah.
On a speed one, but presuming you go, to the point where it's a genuine resignation and not something.
So the rules are that it either has to get to the actual last close combat phase, or
I think that's it. I think that's it. I think you have to probably go all the way through.
The only way,
I think so.
Or a position where you literally mathematically can't win.
Yeah. I think so. And that will be just that's one challenge, and we'd love people to take that on over the year if you want to, and let us know some times. That would be great.
Yeah.
I have a question for you now. What happened? So something happened in my tournament. This was not an issue. I genuinely don't remember the player that I was playing against. And I can't stress this enough. There was no issue or problem or bad feeling at all about it. So just don't panic. This wasn't.
If you think this was you,
this was okay. This is me doing something, and I want to know how you would handle this, right? Either against me or in a tournament or whatever. We can talk about it. So I pick the 2 dice up that I'm about to roll, and I drop them in the dice tower, and the first dice drops out and comes up as a 6, and the other dice sticks to my hand. Okay. So a second later, I kind of tap the dice on top of the dice tower, and the dice drops out of my hand, and it hits the dice in the dice tower, and they both end up as 2 2s. Okay, so is that result a 6 and a 2, a 2 and a 2, or a complete reroll? And how would you play that?
So I think that technically, it could just be a 2-2 because you roll the dice. Yeah, you weren't in control of it hitting the six and changing it, whatever. But just for the sake of like being a good opponent, I think I might have been inclined to roll them again.
Right.
But had it been the other way around, it was a 1, and it clung to your hand, and you knocked it down, you ended up with 2 5s.
Yeah.
So in a way, I think it's still random. You were not controlling that roll.
Yeah.
So I think technically it should stand.
Yeah. So the dangerous thing about it, for example, like the original 6 standing, or not standing, sorry, is that there might be an instance where I'm not suggesting anyone would do this, and I think this is all completely overblown. Nobody does this in Star Wars. Nobody is even out. But there's a technical thing about you see what the first one is, and then you kind of aim for it, or you don't aim for it to try and knock it, or don't knock it. So there is that side of it. And like I say, there was no issue in the game. We played it as the 6 and the 2, and whatever. It didn't make a difference. There was no issues. But I'm interested in thinking what is the thing, and for example, there's 2 things here. One is, let's say for example it's the last roll of the game and it's a close combat, and it that changes the outcome of the game, or it's just a complete friendly. Nobody's going to worry about that on a win roll, win check roll or whatever. Or even for example, I don't know, maybe a miss on a fairly insignificant mortar shot or something. I don't know, but is there an argument to be made of that you would re-roll it if it was the last roll of a close combat, and you're not going to re-roll it? Should it be like a win change or something? So
the problem is, whatever is in your mind as the fair and correct thing to do is not necessarily what's in the mind of your opponent, is it really? You're picking up and go, I'll roll again, and he's thinking, well, that was unnecessary or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like the dice that end up on the slope of the tower, whether that's considered to be a cocked dice or not. Yeah, and that's always a little tricky one, isn't it?
So we play, but I don't know that everybody does. But we play if it's even tiniest bit cocked, we just roll them again, and then there's no debate.
Exactly.
And you've got a good opponent when you see them just pick up the double ones straight away with the slightest cock and just roll them without the slightest hesitation. He hasn't rolled double ones.
A sucker.
He rolled the dice yet.
That's what we call that one.
Instead of like nudging the table a little bit.
I know. Well, that's the thing, is it? Because there is definitely the ones that when they roll up against the back side of the front side of the dice tower, and if you wait long enough, someone will walk past and the dice will fall down. Like, go really slowly to the dice and pick them up. But anyway, there we go. That's that. Right. Okay. Let's have a look at the last part of Kids These Days that we finished off. So, Martin, where did we leave this? Where were we at the time?
So, I think my words were, it couldn't be worse for me, really. I lost absolutely everything on the board.
Right.
But so now I need to get off by getting 40 points off the left-hand side of this board, or I can capture the 2 fortified locations for 15 points and get another 25 off. Yeah,
exactly that. And now I was talking to some people at the tournament about this scenario, and they had told me that it wasn't unusual that the Germans get completely routed off the board.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of, it wasn't, so where I was thinking exactly like you, okay, this should be a one game. They were actually saying, no, the Germans absolutely have enough. And not only that, but one of the techniques of the scenario and the potential for a defense for the German is to keep everything hipped at the start of the game and not even defend the village, and use it as a kind of like a platform to go on the offensive with the existing troops that you had originally. And maybe there's 1 or 2 up front to try and keep you honest. But effectively, those, I can't remember if it's 6 or so squads that start the scenario off.
It is interesting, and realising that you're likely to get, pushed, just almost completely destroyed by that British force definitely changes the sort of strategy, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I get a shock on your half track.
Yes.
We think that you've got to get the village and 4 of these vehicles off. I think is the
something like that. That's
is
right.
the feeling that
I did notice. I think was able to approach quite quickly because the hedgerows. You were in the buildings, weren't you? I think we
that's
kind of
right.
forgotten about that. That kind of helped me a little bit coming on.
Exactly, and this is where I needed the kind of like the cheat sheet of the wall advantage rules because of the bocage, and you don't get to see over that bocage if someone else has if you don't have wall advantage, and you're in terrain, and that got me a couple of times on a scenario where I needed to jump out with a Piat, and in particular, this hex here is the hex that's going to kind of mess me up a little bit. Yeah, exactly. Because often you'll need to jump out with a Piat or something, and there's set times when you can do that with the wall advantage. So knowing that for this scenario is quite important. And these tigers are ridiculously good.
Yes.
Compared to compared to how I'm trying to defend this with the Shermans that really can't stand up to them. And not only that, usually we talk about Shermans needing the mobility and the like kind of in numbers to take on tigers. Well, two of mine are stuck in minefields. Well, one isn't anymore because it's been destroyed back down here.
And you chose not to move it to.
Yeah.
And
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought, okay, just avoid moving it. Don't give you a free kill. And
I mean, really, all four. In fact, all five. If you lost one in the game, didn't you? But right at the back, kind of thing would be almost ideal, wouldn't it? Because I've got to run half tracks by them.
That's right. Point. Yeah. So the thing is, you can push your tigers up and take them on from the front, and generally will be okay. So you're doing a good job of trying to take the building. Your OBA's coming down.
Yes.
We talked last time.
Well for me.
Yeah, so we talked last time about the bucket list items of me being able to pull an OBA down on my own observer in necessity. Well, it almost happened here. So my observer is sitting in the building here in N11, and he's thinking about trying to bring some OBA down when you take this village back again. Meanwhile, you're just kind of going through this defense like a hot knife through butter, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful having those buttoned up. Sorry, having those half tracks, not buttoned up, half tracks with the squad in them, because it's like you can go. It's basically having 20 firepower in a wooden building, isn't it? It's if you get adjacent to something.
Exactly that. Exactly. So we came up to turn 8 here for the Germans, and I think it's looking like you will have absolutely enough to take the village, which is these two buildings here. There was talk as well about making the location with the steeple, or not the steeple, but the ground floor of this one of the two buildings that you needed to capture, because obviously you get to choose which ones have to be recaptured, because it makes it easier for you to recapture, because that one's a little bit easier than perhaps the two behind it. So there's thoughts there about that being a German.
You can't fortify steeples.
No, but the ground floor one.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So here comes the Stug with the 9-2 leader. Do you think that's there to help with the victory points, or do you think that 9-2 is genuinely needed as a Stug?
I mean, it certainly helps with the victory points, because it gets it up to sort of 7 victory points, doesn't it? I think
7 or 8.
Yeah, 7 or 8. Yeah.
And meanwhile, my
8 gets up, right?
Yeah. So this is interesting. So you've got the half squad with the Panzerschreck that's thinking about jumping into K10 in close combat here.
Yeah.
With a Tiger next door.
And
this is one of those kind of like what could go wrong.
Yeah, I didn't think about what I was doing, just trying to tie your guys up as my sort of strength is building kind of thing, but jumping into close combat with a Panzerschreck adjacent to the side of a tiger is a very bad idea. So let's see what happens though.
Yeah, I get the close combat and then beat you in close combat. Obviously don't destroy the Panzerschreck, because everything's gone perfectly well for me. So then all I've got to do is manage to pick it up and then learn how to use a Panzerschreck in 10 seconds whilst this tiger stays next to me.
Yeah. I think this is the first big thing that goes against me, and really entirely my own fault. I can't blame anyone for that.
Yeah, so the squad pick up the Panzerschreck. They're able to fire it with gleeful abandon, I think, is the thing. They don't care about the I think it's a pin that the leader only suffers. Yeah, it was a little bit dangerous for you to put the tiger there. I mean, you still had potentials for some street fighting and stuff as well, so it was somewhat dangerous. But meanwhile, the tiger has come around at the top and has started to target the gun, and you've got the half tracks as well, making some work on my guys here. So we're pushing forward as the Germans here.
Yeah, it's definitely a strong sense of feeling of that village beginning to fall.
That's right. Yeah, my OBA guy breaks, so I lose the
to my OBA, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm going to draw a red card for that, and so that's going to be my OBA pretty much out of the game. Do you manage to break this guy yet? No, not yet. Half tracks are starting to move now. Turn 9, so you've got 2 turns after this one to make your move.
I thought you couldn't see that half track. Ridiculous as that sounds.
This one here, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and there's
it's even stopped. Yeah,
yeah.
In case you approach with infantry, I guess.
Right, is that what that was the plan? Yeah.
Yes, so I guess so.
Here's my moment of what I thought was brilliance. Turns out to be stupidity, where I'm like, finally going to get this side shot against the tiger with the Pt2. And then I'm thinking about it, and you're thinking about it, and then you jump here, and I realise that I don't have full advantage, and I'm not going to be able to.
No,
I'm going to be able to fire. Yeah, this is so stupid. Now, do you know when I can grab all advantage there? Is it? It's not when you walk up next to me, is it? I don't think that's
certainly not when I walk up next to you. No, hip units can. Hip units can, when they lose hip, can claim wall advantage.
Right.
Gosh, I'm not quite sure exactly. There's 3 occasions, isn't there?
Yeah. So we get a couple of shots off at the half track and don't manage to hit it. But I've still got obviously another firing chance. The Pt2 guys have lost their opportunities.
Yeah.
But with only 2 movement phases left to get these 4 vehicles off. Obviously, you've captured, or you're about to capture, the building.
Yeah, the building's falling, crumbling.
So let's load the last one. Did you think you were going to win at this point? What were you thinking?
I thought I might, but that's all.
Okay.
But I've still got a lot of obstacles to get past.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So the 57L is going to have another shot at your half track up here, and we get him with a nice blaze, which is always useful because I don't want any infantry running after my tanks here.
Yeah.
So here's where you're very nice to me. So I'm starting running my tank back, and then suddenly realise I can see a tiger, and I forgot all about that tiger. So you very kindly let me bring it back again. That's the way we should play ASL. To be fair, you didn't take a shot, but I think I was probably one.
I was waiting for the right time.
Yes. I was like, wait a minute, I see what I'm doing wrong here. So yeah, this is not such a great move for me. Yeah, the radio is still obviously no good for me.
Yeah.
You are clearing up that village.
Yeah.
And now you break the crew. This would be pretty crucial.
It could be, yeah.
So, more breaks for me. I'm running out of stuff to fire at you. I do notice I can get a couple of shots off at you. I know that given that you're a fair way away, you're likely to have to go crew exposed with the Tigers to use the road. So, one of the.
So you're thinking some infantry can.
That's right. Yeah.
Stop them, or a sniper.
Yeah, but meanwhile, we have a Tiger running up to a Sherman and presenting a side shot. So this, of course, has to be taken. This is a great shot, isn't it? So we turn the turret and we roll the 666. So this is looking quite good for you. So that's a bad start to the defence
Yeah.
of the final turn. Now you get your insult to injury. The crew are now going to take out
Yeah.
this Sherman here, unless I can do anything about it.
Yeah.
And we managed to break.
I am
leader.
starting to think I might win.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So I break the leader, which stops the squads from running.
Yeah.
But you are able to start now running the stuff away. The Sherman has a hopeful shot.
Yeah.
You now get a one of the half tracks goes, and another half track goes. So it's just one of these extra tanks that looks like it's going to make it. My crew are still broken now. There's no DM in here now. I thought maybe you were going to, instead of stopping next to my Sherman here, I thought you were just going to carry on and just DM this gun.
Should have done that. Yeah.
And that was always a little bit risky. We destroy one of the. You come in here, don't you, to try and.
Yeah. So I had to go up the road or adjacent to it, and you're no longer in a building, so you can I'm adjacent. You can certainly get me with a Piat.
Right.
And I thought that was dangerous. I thought I'd have a better chance just driving straight in, overrunning you.
Right.
And moving on.
Yeah, and that was then the in-hex shot gets you from the rear.
Yeah.
And we destroy you. But then you break me. But I mean, at that point, I'm more than happy.
Sure.
So we get a little bit of advanced fire, and here we go then for the potential last turn. So you get your squad adjacent to my Sherman here, who's got to just pretend to ignore you, really. Now,
and he's got a plan.
He has got a plan. But with no anti-aircraft machine guns, they are completely defenseless there to the rear.
Yeah. And in 1945, it's quite a good plan.
Is it 44? I think it might be 44.
It might be 44, actually.
But it's still Panzerfaust are definitely floating around. So we have rallied the crew, which is the crucial thing here.
Yes. Yeah.
And we get a shot off, but we miss that one, and we don't manage to repair the gun. And I think we try to grab this Piat here.
Yeah.
Fail that one as well, so I can't.
It was twice you failed to find that.
Yeah, failed it in the rally phase, and then try and fail it again in the movement phase. And the idea was that pick it up for 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of come next to this.
Try and get the other Tiger. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which is pretty unfair, I thought. So then I run the squads in, try and just get you to do something. You're having none of it. You then take one shot. With the Panzerschreck, you get one in a second. Job. Yeah, you get exactly Panzerfaust, and you blaze that guy. And now I've got one thing remains, which is the gun, and presumably the infantry as well.
Yeah.
The battle for the village is pretty much done. A little bit of advancing, just to try and help.
You've only got a leader in there.
That's right.
Broken as well. Yeah, broken leader. Yeah, so that's going.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So we get to the last turn. The melees are all fairly irrelevant. So you run up to the gun here, and what's your plan here, Martin?
Okay, so my plan is to move into J10 and pop vehicle smoke. Not the vehicle smoke grenades, but the anti-personnel weapon grenade smoke.
The SN.
Which I think I have to be crew exposed, which is really, really silly. Because this is the one that's 16 firepower attack, you have to be buttoned up. Right. So moving in their crew exposed was my critical mistake here, I think. Really.
Yeah. And so you can't fire that. But meanwhile, I do get a shot at you with an 8-2 against you here.
Yeah.
So we take the shot. We get a pin check, but you pass. But that could have been the game there if you'd have pinned.
Yeah, absolutely.
At that point. Yeah. And then we realise that I get a sniper, and I reposition it, I think.
Here. Yeah.
And we're kind of fairly lax about this at the time. And then realised that actually we get another sniper, and now this is actually quite important that we get this right, the reposition right, because obviously when you reposition, you've got to still be with 6 within 6 stacks, and there are only 5 stacks here. So to get this correct, I don't think the sniper can count as a target,
I don't think so. No,
as a target for the 6 of 6. So we have to try and work out where it can actually legally go, because it's obviously it makes a big difference if I recall one of those half tracks or
any of those vehicles. Yeah,
exactly. So in the end, with my snake eyes, we hit the sniper.
Saves my bacon again.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, I've done no damage to your crew.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And he's able to. Does he need to roll for ESP?
He
I can't remember if
he
needs to.
does.
But it's a relatively small number, isn't it?
Exactly that. He gets off. Yeah, we just double count.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah. So you don't fire at that one.
Yep. That one's gone.
You don't fire at that one.
And
this
we
is
have
the
acquired target. And this is the one shot. And here's where you were brilliant. So I do a quick calculation. So it's 60s to hit, and I roll, and we obviously check the line of sight and everything. And I roll a 7. I say, oh, okay, that's it. And you say, no, 7s it is to hit. And we double check it, and we realise it is 7s to hit. And I get the double 1 to finish the game off. And that's that. And it was the game was won. So
in the end, very close. I think if I was playing it again against somebody who played it exactly like you, I'm confident I would have won it.
Yeah, I agree.
But of course, if I played you again, you wouldn't play it exactly the same.
I don't know what I would have really, because I think the opening half of that scenario is very much like I've got to push to get that village, and I don't have a lot of time to reposition. And you're absolutely right. I think what I could have done better was the wall advantage, dropping the wall advantage kind of thing to be able to fire the Piats. You may have been a lot more careful about your Tigers, about where they would have gone, because there are a lot of Piats floating around in this scenario. I think it's 4 or so. But it's a nice scenario, isn't it? It's definitely not as big as it looks. I think that's one of the key things. When we looked at this to start with, we almost kind of wrote it off, saying it was just far too big. It's worth saying again, this scenario is available free from the Hasmo website, so absolutely take a look at it if you fancy it. And we had a good game with it, didn't we? So thanks to Chuck and Charles, and good scenario, and thank you guys.
A little bit that we had 2 good games with it, if I'm honest, because it definitely has two halves. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think you probably enjoyed the second half more than the first.
Well, both sides are unstoppable, I think, in their own half. Yeah,
that's very true. Very true. Okay, all right. Well, so thanks for that. We're going to play. We'll come up to what we're going to play next very soon. We were going to talk about. We thought that Rob was going to do us a video, and to be fair to Rob, we told him we were playing Foreign Legion, and then Chuck asked us to play a different scenario. So we played the different scenario, and of course I forgot to tell Rob. So we forgot to tell Rob. So Rob diligently did a great video for us. So we will play Foreign Legions very soon. It's going to come up at some point, and we will use Rob's video that he has already done for us for that one, talking about the matchup. And that's all about tin cans and old tanks. So that's quite fun. We have a giveaway for patrons and non-patrons this time. Patrons have a little bit of a better chance. Do you remember, Martin, what we were doing for this?
Yeah, so we're asking people to do vassal setups and put them on the ASL Scenario Archive.
That's right. And in particular, using the vassal templates program. So for those that have seen the nice setups that are created by the vassal template program, I will send you a link to both the application and perhaps a video tutorial of how to do that.
You're going to put that on the description
below,
yeah.
So if you can create us a scenario or two, add it to the scenario page as a vassal template setup or a vassal setup. The key thing here is we know that sometimes the vassal engines, they change and the setups become invalid. I'm hoping that's becoming less of a problem now. I can't confirm it, but I do know that it's great to have a lovely setup. And I think, in our previous recording of this video, Martin, you made a good point. It's always worth checking those, because sometimes we just go along with it as if that's exactly what the scenario is. Sometimes, mistakes get made. But if you want to enter this competition, for every vassal template setup that you upload to the archive and let us know in a comment in this video that you've done it and which scenarios you've done it for. For every one that you do, we'll give you an entry. And if you are a Patreon, we'll double it. So patrons get a double chance, but normal players can just enter as well. Rally point number 9, a nice sealed version of that. It's the Study of 7A, B, 8 and 9 map boards is the prize. And hopefully we can get a couple of vassal templates added. And it makes people's life a little bit easier. And I think if we get people, I'd love people just to by default, including us, we should do this as well, to learn how to use the vassal templates engine or application a little bit better. And when people play with a nice setup, if they just upload it just as a matter of kind of nice thing to do kind of thing to the archive, it makes all of our lives a little bit easier. I see a lot of times people asking if there are a database full of setups for scenarios. Just saves a little bit of time and everything for people. So getting people to do a little bit of that would be great if possible. So that's the challenge. We have a new pack going up on the archive that should be up there by the time you guys see this. It's the March Madness pack. I'm just going to pull it up on the archive now. So the March Madness 2023 pack is coming up. It's the Mountain. It's the Mountain pack.
10th Mountain Division, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So we have 9 scenarios in the pack, and they're kind of linked, aren't they? There's like a sort of like a mini campaign in there as well.
Yeah.
It looks quite interesting.
Yeah,
exactly. So we're going to play. One. We're actually going to play it today.
Task Force Derby. We're playing.
Exactly, which looks like one of the smaller ones in the pack. So big thanks to Encircle Productions and Kansas City Games. We'll do a bit more of a review of that pack next time. But it's available on the Scenario Archive, $15. And obviously, big thanks to those guys for supporting the website. Getting through it, Martin. Getting through it. Anything else to talk about?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Second Front.
That's exactly right. Well done. So Second Front. Second Front is Joe Bader.
Not at all patronising.
No, I genuinely completely forgot. So Joe was the originator of the developer for Hexdraw, which was an application that was around about, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. I remember seeing it on the forums I think the forums. He was doing a program for ASL players to create ASL maps. And he had this kind of like, it was quite a rudimentary, two-dimensional kind of application, and he could create nice maps. And he kind of he created the replications of the existing maps in this kind of thing to be able to kind of visualize them a little bit. And then I remember him turn it into 3D. And then I remember as a bit of a kind of tech demo, I think he had a tank kind of running around on the roads, and it was quite a nice kind of cutesy tank and everything. Well, it turned out that 15 years later, he's done a deal with Micropose, who are the great software company that we remember, and turned it into a very ASL-like game. So we've been playing it, Martin. What do you think? Any thoughts?
It's very like ASL. I mean, I think there's no doubt it's very. I mean, a lot of the language is different, but actually movement is very similar. Firing is quite similar. It's probably a little bit starter kit-ish in the sense that it's there's no fire lanes, is there? There's no residual. Though you do have residual, of course, in starter kit. But it's very, very good for if you want that like kind of little bit of a fix and you want to play a little bit of ASL. It feels like ASL.
Right, exactly.
I was watching a YouTuber playing it, and they were, of course, weren't an ASL player, and he was struggling with kind of what's the best way to do this, what's the best way to do that. But as an ASL player, it kind of comes naturally to you. I think you said to me you'll know how to capture a building and how to attack it, and whereas if you came to that game fresh, you wouldn't.
Right.
I thought that was an interesting angle on it. There's some key differences, aren't there? Defensive fire is very different because you don't control your defensive fire.
Yep.
And I'm not quite sure what the rules are. I'm not quite sure how their fire is limited.
Right.
You've played a bit more than me. You may have kind of tweaked that. I'm not sure, but
yeah, it appears to be very similar to ASL in terms of subsequent first fire and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. Defensive fire is taken out of your hands a little bit. You kind of control the final fire aspect, and you also control, like for example, prep fire and movement and advancing fire seems to be merged into one. So
Yeah.
if you fire something, then it's not going to move. If you move, I assume it's fire and a half firepower. But there's, everything else is relatively ASL in there.
Yeah.
It's the close combat stats. You recognize these stats. The first few times I was playing it, I was not realizing that my tanks hadn't stopped. And this is a great kind of like learning moment in ASL, isn't it? Where if you don't move your tank, but they're still in motion, then they're effectively moving. And this is one of those things where, certainly on a computer game, it's a little bit harder to know that if a tank is sat in the hex and hasn't moved for a turn, but it's still got its engine on, you've got to realize that's in motion. And there's little things like that are,
Yeah.
and the game does a decent job of showing that. It's worth mentioning it's only single player. So it's not multiplayer in any way, and I don't think it's ever going to become multiplayer. I don't think there's any.
And I think that you always attack, don't you? I don't think there's a scenario where you are the defender.
Yeah, I haven't seen one. Yet, but I've only started playing. I'm playing them through in order. It's also worth saying it's tough. It's the AI does a good job. It plays well. It doesn't cheat. I know it uses the same dice and everything and stats that the players do. Obviously, it's a little bit easier to balance if the AI is a little bit weaker because the scenarios are fairly set. You might give you a few more reinforcements than might be otherwise necessary. But it's great. I mean, I think you said it. You can play an ASL scenario in 20-30 minutes. We're seeing the footage now of you playing.
Me doing exactly that, playing the first scenario in 25 minutes.
And I think this one is one that hasn't got vehicles in it or doesn't have very many vehicles, so you won't see that in this video. But obviously online there's plenty of videos, and the models are pretty nice, aren't they? They're all quite there's bits and pieces going on. I found it a little bit difficult to know whether vehicles should be buttoned up or crew exposed to fire weapons, and certainly sometimes I was surprising why I couldn't fire something and then I buttoned up and I was able to, or I was unbuttoned and I could, that kind of thing.
There is a manual, isn't there? Did you go through the manual?
I didn't, and I've heard it's very, very good though. I've heard it's very, very good.
Yeah.
And there's a scenario editor, and there's also the Steam Workshop as well. So people will be and are creating scenarios for it. So there's potentially going to be a whole lot of support from the community. Reasonably expensive, £30 I think, so £25-30. So it's not priced at what I would call an indie game, but absolutely, I think in terms of I've already got my money's worth out of it, and I've played it. Maybe for the first 4 or 5 scenarios, I feel like I've had a good time with it, and I will carry on playing it. And there's a little high score.
With the buildings, the multi-level buildings, and seeing where things were. Right. Sometimes, I'm not sure that I've worked out how to do it properly, because I couldn't even work out where the guys on the ground floor were in the building, which hex they were in.
Right. Yeah, that's a fair comment. And there's a like a little icon that lets you switch between like 1, 2, or 3 building levels, and you can kind of turn them on or off to sort of see where they are. But you're absolutely right. Sometimes it's a bit tricky to know whether you're advancing up or advancing down and where the. But I found that sometimes putting all the levels back on and rotating the map around so you can understand the kind of the topology of the building kind of help, because certainly there's a couple of buildings that are quite wide with a third level in the middle of the building. And you go, okay, right, I see now why I can't get to them, and stuff. There's that. And the other little tricky thing from an ASL perspective is, 658s don't look like 658s. They've got it's a group of guys that might say elite, and it might have 5 little notches for the range, and it might have a double exclamation mark or something, or not double but double star if they're higher morale or something like that. It's all a little bit, you can figure it out by going, okay, this is a conscript, I see this is the range and the and things like that. But having said that, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good, isn't it? I enjoyed my hour or so.
So I would recommend it if you're interested. I think it kind of sits between combat mission and close combat. Do you remember like those 2 games where it's it kind of feels like the scale is more of that level of detail, as it were. But good fun, and so good job, Joe. Done a good job.
Well done.
My one gripe with it is I can't have a windowed mode, and I have an ultra wide monitor. It's this long,
so it's distorted.
Well, it's not quite distorted, but it's just so tall. So I'm looking over this side for a shot that's going to be over there. And I can't. It's and the thing is, so I've spoken to them on the forums and on the Discord channel about it, and I don't think they think it's that big a deal. They're like, oh, it's just playing full screen, it's okay. You know, you can change the interface size. That's all. That's all absolutely usable. But it's just playing on a full screen on a monitor that's more than a meter wide is really quite painful. So there's that. But I'm hoping, you know, one day they'll patch it in at some point. But other than that, yeah, really enjoyed it. Good game and good job, Joe. Anything else, Martin?
I can't think of anything else.
Okay, well done. Thank you very much for doing this again for me. I apologise to you, but to you for having to do that all over again. We're going to try and get through this one, Task Force Derby, and we'll try and get another episode out nice and quickly to try and catch up our schedule a little bit. Until then, thanks for the game and cheers.
Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.